For today's class, you're asked to create a small GUI. So I'm going to give an example of this. You have seen of this code already before, but I was asking you to just take some of this at face value. So again, I want to create a GUI. I've imported these three things: java.awt. It tends to have a lot of colors. The layout managers are in there, etc. Java.awt.event is how we deal with things as classes that help us deal with things like button clicks and mouse clicks, etc. And then Java Swing has all the widgets that we'll need. So it has the JFrame and the JButtons and the JLabels. So I just wanted to import everything from there, everything from the event and everything from Swing, because I'm going to use a lot of it. So I've created a class, I've created the main method. So I want to create a constructor, and the constructor is going to build the actual GUI. So I want to have a constructor, my GUI, so the moment that somebody is trying to create an instance of this, I actually want to put all the components in that I need. Now, as I've done before, I want this GUI to be a JFrame. So we've seen this before where I said extend JFrame. Okay, so this is an indication that this class is actually a GUI or a window. And what I want to do is I want to put a button. Let's first just throw a button in there. So a button is, JButton is the class, and it's in javax.swing. And I'll just call it button, new JButton. And what you can pass as an argument is whatever label you want to appear on the button. So I'm just going to say hello. And now I can simply add the button to the frame. So add button, and remember that I said that we have a border layout here, so I'm going to go to border layout, which is, remember, I'm going through the class here, so I'm looking for a class variable or a static variable, and I want to let it know to go into the south. So there is some constant, a static constant in border layout called south, which indicates that I want this button to appear at the bottom in this case. Let's do the usual operations when we want to show a window. And one thing is that we want to be able to set the close operation. So set default close operation, exit on close. And what this means is when you hit that little X at the top here, so we have a little X for all of these windows, when somebody closes the window, I actually want to end the entire application. This is not necessarily the case. It's just because somebody closes a window, you might want the application to continue. But in this case, I actually want to just stop the entire program. You can set the size. In this case, I'm going to use a pack, not in capitals, which is saying to the JFrame, place everything and size accordingly. And the last thing is I want to set it visible. So visible should be true. Okay. So compile this. And run it. And there is a tiny little window at the top that contains that little button that I have created. Alright, so that's one thing that I want to do, but the other thing that I asked you to do is when somebody clicks the button, something happens. And the way that you do that is you let the button know, add action listener. So you say to the button, please add an action listener so that we can do something when the button actually has been clicked. And in this case, I want to add myself. I'm saying I am the action listener. To be an action listener, I actually have to be one. So what I have to add here is that I'm implements action listener. And this here class is in java.awt.event. So I'm saying that I want to be an action listener. I want to be able to listen to button clicks. So what now happens is when the button is clicked, it is going to call a method in here that is called action performed. So I better make sure that it exists. Okay. So the button, the moment that it's clicked, it's going to call this method. and it takes as an argument an action event. And I don't actually care about the argument too much, but what I do want to do is I want to change the text on the button. Alright, so I want to go to this button and do something like set text. Now notice that the button is local to the constructor, so if I want to be able to access it outside of the constructor, I'm going to make it an instance variable of this GUI. So I'm going to bring it out here. And of course here I want to make sure that I'm using the instance variable rather than creating a new variable. So let's for now just change the text to goodbye, so that when the button is clicked, the text on the button should change. Here is the button hello. If I click on it, it changes to the text goodbye, and to be able to see that. Now from here on in, every time I click that button, the text is changed to goodbye, which of course doesn't look like I'm doing anything. So let's, instead of changing the text to goodbye, let's toggle between hello and goodbye. So if button.getText, so there is a get, and I'm going to check to see if that is equals to hello. If that's the case, then I'll set the text to goodbye. Otherwise, I'm going to set it to hello. So now I should be toggling between hello and goodbye. So again, my little window up here with one button on it. I click and it gets goodbye. Click, hello, click, 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 click. So by adding myself as the action listener, what I know is that as soon as the button is clicked, this method is going to be called and it's executed, and I can put any code in there that I like, anything whatsoever that I need to do when this button is clicked. So in a game this might be a lot more involved than just changing the text. The other thing that you needed to do is work with a JLabel, so I'm only going to do one more thing and just add a JLabel but not actually do anything with it. So JLabel, new JLabel, and again I can pass as an argument the text that I want to appear, and some text here. And I just want to add this to the current frame, so I want to add the label, and in this case let's put this in the west. Remember that there's north, east, south, west, and center. Compile. Border layout. And as you can see, the text appears. If I make this bigger, notice that the text always stays on the west. If I'd said north, it would have kept the north of the window. If I have said to the east, it would have hugged the east, and in the center it would have stayed in the center of the window. And the button still works. Alright, so a very brief introduction to creating a GUI.